Make all your content look like it's done by a professional designer just by applying these simple do's and don'ts when it comes to fonts. First up, now do pick a font that matches your subject matter. So it's tiki time. This is just a fun party invite, a little tiki party. What does not say tiki party is the font Futura, right? So again, we want to change that. Right? You want to pick a good dog? No, it's not a party for dogs either. Not graduate, it's not a graduation party, right? So go through these fonts, kind of figure out what says what you want it to, but you can also jump out to fonts.adobe.com. This is nice because I can come over here and say, hey, you know what? It's going to be a fun party. Why not? Click fun and then dial that in from there, sync that font, see what looks good. So use that as a resource. But getting back in here, I could dive into these fonts. I don't want it to be too fun and playful because it's going to be a classy party. I could pick a sans font. So let's talk about this. When you see sans or serif, here's a serif font. What does this mean? Well, these serifs are these little offshoots or decorative options that are on these letters, right? So this makes it a little more classical, a little bit more traditional. So if that's what you're going for, hey, have at those serif fonts. If you want something more modern, well then, of course, go with a sans serif font, right? This is considered more modern. Pick what works for you, but you could also grab something like this slab serif right in here. These big slab serifs, right? Still contemporary, but I like this font because it looks like it's cut out of wood, like it's a totem, for instance. So I'm really into this font, right? It's not crazy decorative, so that's what I'm going to go with. My next point is design a header. In this case, don't just pick a font. So for this design, we could jump in here. We could maybe add a shape behind it. As you can see, I'm really liking this sort of hot pink. I could, of course, change that color. We could turn that off, maybe add a shadow. So try some of these options, right? It's not like you're just picking a font and then you're done, right? We can actually go into other options. So we can throw this around in a circle if we want to, right? Hey, you know what? A font has one job, which is just convey information in writing. So things can get a little wonky. So just be aware of that, right? You can see that's what I'm doing. Guess what? Let's just kind of undo all of that. And we can go back to what I had right here. So what I do like is this pop. This makes it stand out. It gives this text somewhere to rest, right? But we can embellish it some more as well. So think of just going beyond just picking a font, because guess what? Your job's not done there. Let's add some fun like tiki flower elements to this, just like so, to make that look pretty good. My last point, don't just pick one font for your whole design and you're done. You want to pair fonts that go well together. So we can see right in here, here's some additional text. Right here we have the time and location, right? I love this formatting. This is great. We could stack that on one line. We can position this underneath, right? So we have this good lockup. Looks great, right? But I have this font. It's called Bebas New. These fonts work well together because they are basically very big, thick, bold fonts, right? We want to check the X height as well if I was using lowercase. Make sure your X height of your letters are the same. So they need to have something in common, but then they need to be different as well. So you can see one's a slab serif, and one's a sans serif. Doesn't have any serif whatsoever. So use those contrasts, but make sure they have something in common. In fact, speaking of something in common, let's go ahead and throw some shakes behind that, and we can see that text pops more, and we can adjust accordingly. Now, when you're dealing with body copy, make sure it's legible. That's the most important thing. Don't do it in all caps. Make sure you have a header also and a subheader like I have for my design right here. So keep that in mind. A test you want to do is just imagine if your text was in another language, would you still be able to tell what your subject matter is about? So again, if it was in a different language, could you still tell that this is a tiki party? Remember, type has one job, convey information in writing, so don't over-design. Make sure you have hierarchy, your header, your subheader. If everything is yelling, then really nobody's listening at that point. And on that note, thank you for listening and watching me, and have fun designing.